Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and it's episode 2 or video 2 of this series for today. We are looking at Bleach 668. The name of the chapter, to be fair, reminded me of a Daft Punk song, Faster, Stronger and whatnot. But an interesting chapter nonetheless. A lot of people have been talking about their disappointments with the Bleach and how the direction characters are going and what they've done with Ken-chan, or Kenpachi Zaraki. This does set up which could turn out to be an epic power for Zaraki Kenpachi. But without further ado, let's get into the review. So, we normally do a 5-point review. There were so many little tidbits in this chapter that I wanted to specifically mention, so I'm going to do a run through of the different bits and points, things I liked, things I didn't like, and then we'll save the best for the last with the ending. So the first part starts off with Zaraki Kenpachi being shocked of the result of a clash, and he's bleeding, which shows how powerful Gerard is, because even in his Shikai form, Zaraki Kenpachi is struggling. Remember, we saw him in the early parts of the series. It always was a case of no one could cut him. It really shows you the power of the elite and how OP they really are. Now, what happens is the cliche part starts happening. You get Gerard Valkyrie gloating. He has two forms of this gloating. He has this part now that he gloats initially, and he gloats at the end just before the final revelation. So we get this gloating, and then Zaraki Kenpachi basically gets up. There's a lot of Zaraki gets knocked down, he gets back up, gets back down. That kind of to and froing, to be fair, in this chapter. He gets back up, but he goes, if I can't shatter this sword, I need to kill you. And you get the retort, or you can't shatter this sword, blah, 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 blah. Then you get like a joke in there, which is fine, but I'm thinking the nature of this, some of these jokes don't really hit home for me, and it's like Hitsugai basically like, oh, they're a match made in heaven, or should I say hell? And it's like very cliche 90s kind of TV show for me. I get what they were doing. It's a bit of a departure for Hitsugai, who's normally a bit of a stickler for things, and he's quite straightforward and straight to the point, and he's not really a comedian, so to speak, but he has been doing that in the last few chapters, and although it's a good change, some of it doesn't hit home for me. Other people might enjoy it, but each to their own. They both complement each other. Obviously, Zaraki basically realizes that this guy's a lot faster than he looks, which is probably to do with his ability, because from a physics standpoint, the more you weigh, the heavier you are, your joints can't take as much, and normally athleticism is what makes up for that. So basically, as he's being small, and he's got bigger, he hasn't lost any of that. He's got the same type of speed and power, kind of like Ant-Man syndrome, but the giantification side of things, so that hasn't changed. On the flip side, Gerard is basically complimenting Zaraki Kenpachi, saying that he's a slippery character and he can't get a hold of him. Hitsugai takes this opportunity to basically jump in, and he gets stopped by Zaraki, which is kind of a flip, because I know Hitsugai stopped him at one point as well. So that's interesting that he got to kind of retort that, which is that kind of banter, so to speak, for captains, I guess. And the reason why he said that, look, stay out of it, leave it alone, I'll take care of it. Obviously, Byakuya is a more observant one. He basically says, look, if you notice, Kenpachi has taken off his eye patch. He's deadly serious about this fight. This is interesting because last chapter I did a review. One of my subscribers said, has he taken his eye patch off? This confirms he had it on, even though in some panels you could see it. It wasn't the most obvious thing that you could easily overlook. This confirms it. He had his eye patch on from the beginning, although he may have taken off before in a previous fight. So the eye patch is off. They go for gold. There's a conversation between Byakuya and Hitsugaya, and they're talking about running out of time and fighting together to beat this guy, but give him believing in Kenpachi to do his thing. This means two things for me from Byakuya's point of view. Byakuya respects Kenpachi, Zaraki, and his capabilities, and he understands the situation they're in, and if Kenpachi can't beat him, they're going to have to work together to do something. The idea is freeze him with Hitsugaya's technique, scatter him to shreds with Senbon and Sakura. And then the fighting continues between Zaraki, and eventually Zaraki goes down. Hitsugaya and and basically Byakuya go in there, and they get caught out. You look like, goes, I can see your moves coming from a mile away. It's not going to work against me. And then the interesting parts happen. This is probably the one thing that was, I mentioned before, that is probably going to happen. We were going to see it. We finally get to see it. We wanted an explanation as to why he hasn't done it before. It was interesting, but the Shikai thing, this one is completely different. It does set up a few plot holes. Here's what happens. So Kenpachi's down, and Yachiro turns up, and she goes, "So this is no time to be down." And Kenpachi goes, "What have you been doing all this time? Where have you been?" And she basically says, you know, if you use me properly, there won't be anybody you couldn't cut down." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And she calls him a silly goose in this translation, because she's a little kid, isn't she? She's meant to be anyway. And she goes, "You can be so clueless sometimes. You could use the power of Bankai." So this means a few things for me. From a nostalgic point of view, from the beginning of the series, there was always some people that I've always wanted to see the Bankai, namely 3. You've seen the first persons already. Actually, there was 4 initially, but so the first one was Yamamoto, Captain Yamamoto at that time, Captain Commander. We saw that against the first invasion, and it didn't really work out well for him. The second was aizens. I'd imagine that's going to come up at some point, because we've only seen his Shikai. And the third was Kisuke Urahara. We have seen that now. The last one was his. The last one, for some reason, I've always wanted to see Zaraki's Bankai. We never thought we'd see it at one point, bearing in mind what was going on. But now we potentially have reason why. And I was being nostalgic. I was thinking back to all the little things and hints that we've had in the story. Now there is that whole plot point about how is Yachiro being able to be seen, and they do there's a whole thing about like a filler arc with Zanpakuto, but with it being filler, you can't really use it. But having really been a human for so long, or Shinigami for so long, and being seen by everybody, and fighting against the Quincy, that is a bit of a grey area. But if you look at other things, there have been clues. So number 1, when he met her, she was a young child, as in she was an infant, but she wasn't scared of him. That would make sense if she was his inner Zanpakuto. She was always with him, and she never went away from him, and he cared for her and looked after her without really realizing why. Something to do with the Zanpakuto. There's a link, a bond with the Zanpakuto. He never knew the name of his Zanpakuto. He never knew her name either. He named her Yachiro. Right? When he fought Ichigo and he lost, Yachiro knew that Ichigo was fighting with Zangetsu, and he said to him, "It's not fair. There was 2 of them on one of you." She knew that there was another Zanpakuto in you. She knew his name. And that was the Zanpakuto side of things. So for me, in my mind, Yachiro is the real form of his Zanpakuto, or she's part of the seal. So I think what happened was his power was separated prior by the previous Kenpachi, the 4th captain, and basically part of the seal was Yachiro. The Zanpakuto was separated, and because he never knew the name of his sword and he never knew her name, he assumed she was a human. But if you think about it, she was being very powerful for a very long time, right? If they come together, all that dark power that's in her will basically go into Kenpachi, and we'll finally get to see the Bankai of Zaraki, the undefeatable, the indestructible, the man, the one and the only Zaraki Kenpachi's Bankai. We will see that. I'm excited, I'm hyped. Not the most amazing chapter, but the revelation that it really brought it up. I would have called it a 5 just for that itself. I'm going to say it's a 7. I'm just hype. I really want to see it. I don't care what people say. I don't care what people think about what's happened with the series. As a fan, of someone that's watched it from a very long time, all the episodes, all episodes missing filler to a certain degree, all the manga chapters. I wanna. This is on my bucket list for this manga. I wanna see the Bankai. I can't explain it anymore. I'm so excited. I hope you are too. Hopefully we'll see the next chapter, but before that, I hope you enjoyed my review. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. If something you liked, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section below. If something that you want me to work on, let me know. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. I do regular reviews on a wide plethora of different mangas and anime. I'll continue to do that. If there's a format that you'd like me to take up in my videos or any improvements I can make, let me know. But for now, take it easy.